Hello. During next year, I would like to work with you and do the FetterWork. And if you have looked at my homepage, themore.uk, you have seen that I have written a lot about the fetters. I'm not guiding in 2023. I'm taking time off to sort out my health. I have Addison's disease because of an accident I was in a lot of years ago. And it's really after the lockdowns and contracting COVID 6 times, because my immunity is lowered. It's very clear that I need to take a year off, and that's what I'm doing in 2023. So I'm not guiding, I'm not having any workshops, I'm not having any teachings or anything. But for me, in order to be present, then I'm gonna make videos on the channel. And I was thinking that it would be great doing videos that are doing the fetter work with you. So I'm gonna start with the first fetter and then the second fetter and so on, and then you can watch the videos as well. But let's start at the beginning. What is the fetters? Well, the fetters is it comes from Buddhism, and there's a sutta called the Samyojana Sutta that is talking about the 10 fetters. There are 5 lower fetters and 5 higher fetters. And for there to be higher and lower fetters, it's when you start to work with it, it becomes very, very apparent. So let's start by at the beginning. The beginning is the first fetter. And the first fetter is that you believe in identification. You believe in the ego. You believe that there's a separate self. You believe there's an me, my, I, and there's a you, them, there, and he, she out there, other people out there. That separation it's such a profound part of our delusion. And it's one of the things that make a lot of people recoil. As soon as they hear about non-duality, they hear about Buddhism, they hear about Advaita, they hear about Hinduism, they hear about spiritual work, they completely recoil because we talk about non-self and non-identifying. But it is the first step. You need to understand that. You need to, and I don't mean understand like intellectually understand it. Never mind that. You probably already do. So it's not about that. It's about really experiencing it, because you cannot do the fetter work intellectually. You can't. You need to experience it. And this is the part where a lot of people, they're going to stop watching the videos because it's super demanding. You can't just sit and take it in, be in a distance and take it in. You need to experience it. You need to have that all-inclusive experience of what it means not to have a separate self. And I'm gonna make videos where I help you see through self. And it's simply becoming aware of where is that self that you believe is the separate self? Where is that part that is the separate self? Because it's not there. You can't find it anywhere. And I have made so many videos where I talk about how there's someone believing itself to exist, the separate self, how that comes into being. So you can just look through the old videos that I have made. I'm talking about it there. But that's the first fetter. The second fetter is about doubt. And it's as soon as you start to work, to do the fetter work, as soon as you sit and meditate and you start to reflect and you start to not just act like you normally do, but you feel that actually normally I would have got super offended by this and I didn't. Then you are in the point where you're moving through the fetters. You're becoming awake. You're realizing. You're snapping out of the fantasy. You're waking up from the dream. And the first thing that happens is imposter syndrome. You're gonna be so sure that no, this can't be it. This can't be it. There should be like angels around me singing. The colors should be different. The taste should be different. I should be in the world like more relaxed. This can't be it. That's the next thing that happened. That's the second fetter. It's the doubt. What happens is that you're snapping straight back into the migo. You're snapping into the separate self. Seeing that I'm here, what I want to do, where I want to go is out there. And right now I'm not out there, so I'm here, which means that's the doubt. You're back in step number 1 about the separate self. The third fetter is about realizing that you have a lot of routines in your life. You do a lot of things in your life that you do for a purpose. So you eat healthy to lose weight. You do exercise to become stronger or get more toned, or you meditate to become awake. And those are what I call harmful routines. Those are things that everything you do with a purpose is done with the ego. Because the ego has that foundational I am not a should be belief. So it's moving itself from where it actually is, where reality actually is, into something that is better than what is right now. Those are harmful routines. For all the fetters, and I want to talk about that a little bit now, because there are as many different ways to do the fetters as there are people on the planet, because you need to find out what works for you. And the way that I'm doing it, the way that what I'm doing differently than if you go to Liberation Unleashed, or you work with the work that Kevin is doing or Christiana is doing. I'm obviously doing it the way that I have done it for decades now. And what I have found useful is to use what I call for antidotes. And it's basically, an antidote is when you sit in the delusion of the fetter, then you are in the fantasy. You believe in your identification, but I am angry. You believe in the identification. The antidote is giving you kind of like a light, a beacon in the direction where reality is and where your reality is. So when you are in the separate self and you believe that you are really, really whatever you're identifying with, then what you do is you use the antidote of non-self and breathe into the feeling of being alive, of feeling your heart and listening to the sound that you hear, or sit and look at a leaf or a teacup for that matter. Really taste something where you really taste it. So you use your senses to come into that space of connectedness where there's not a separate self, there's not a separate you, but you have the feeling of the non-self. You have the feeling of that connectedness. And when you're in doubt, then usually when we're in doubt, then we're doing something, oh, but this can't be right, this can't be it, this can't be it, and I need to go there, and we have the doubt about what is happening. The beacon of light that I put up in the antidote is calm. Okay, calm down, breathe. Let go of the thought about what you need to do, and let go of the thought about the imposter syndrome and all that. Let go of the thought, just be calm. Just be calm, just be here right now. Breathe. Put a hand on your heart and a hand on the heart and breathe. Just feel your body, just be present here now. The antidote for the third fetter that I'm using, it's when you have the harmful routines, when you think that you need to diet, to be happy. Those 5 kilos, 10 pounds that you need to lose, and then you're going to be happy. So therefore you diet, and it's pure suffering all the way through the entire diet. Or you do exercises or whatever you do because you want to be a better version of yourself. Those are harmful routines. What you need is presence. Come on. Hand on your heart and hand on the heart. Breathe. Be here. Find the presence right now. Then you can feel, okay, I don't need the donut. I don't need to go for a run. I don't need to sit and meditate. I need to go for a run. It's just you getting the pure presence of what actually is. So you snap out, of the fantasy. You wake up from the dream state. The fourth and the fifth fetter you can't do alone. And I'm saying that because a lot of people, they see through the first three fetters on their own. A lot of people, they just watch the videos and they reflect and they meditate and they get insights. And then the first three fetters just fall and there's nothing left. So obviously a lot of people that are here now, you haven't had a guide. You've just, understood it by yourself. You woke up by yourself. The dream state's not there anymore by itself. So you haven't got a guide. But the fourth and the fifth you can't do alone. I can say that already now. You can't do that alone. The fourth and the fifth, it's a pair. All of the fetters, I want to say that right now, all of the fetters are pairs. And the fourth and the fifth, they're pairs. And they fall at the same time. And the fourth fetter is desire or craving. It's all the things you want. And the fifth fetter is ill will and aversion. It's all the things you don't want. So you can already hear that obviously those are the same fetter, or they fall at the same time, because everything you want is always included with all the things you don't want. And everything you don't want is because you're going towards something else. And you can't work on that on your own. It's impossible. Let's say Janice from the office. I'm sorry if your name is Janice. I'm just using that as an example. Janice from the office. I'm thinking of the Janice from Friends. Anyway, so Janice from the office. She's so annoying. She's always on your case. She's always with, you haven't put the paper in right. You haven't started a new coffee. You haven't done, and you didn't say, she's on your case all the time. And you're so annoyed. No matter who you talk to at the office, they are going to agree with you. If you talk to your partner is going to agree with you. If you talk to your boss is probably going to agree with you, your family too. So the whole thing is that you're surrounded by people that see the world separated. They see you here, Janice there. You see you there and Janice there. You don't see as you and Janice as one, which means that you have a lot of aversion towards Janice, and you very clearly know what Janice needs to do for you to be okay with Janice. And that's where you need a guide. Because you need a guide in your life that go, hang on. Are you sure about that? Are you sure that Janice, she needs to be different than who Janice is? Are you sure? So what is reality? Is Janice different than Janice is? Okay, she's not. Okay, but you know how Janice is supposed to be. And if only Janice, she mind her own business sometimes, then you would be happy. So Janice needs to change who she is so you can be happy in your life. Are you sure that is how it works? And if you already now sit and have like a list of things of why this is not how it is, then now you know why you need a guide. What to say the antidote for the fourth and the fifth. And I also want to say it's not everybody that works with antidotes. I think I'm the only one working with them. But it's just for you to have the delusion of desire and ill will, of all the things you want and all the things you don't want. You have that delusion in you. Reality is contentment. Remember that time when you were running at the beach and it was just beautiful and time disappeared and you were just present? That contentment. That's the direction you're going toward. I'm not talking about spiritual bypassing here. If you're angry at Janice, you're angry at Janice Don't spiritual bypass it at all, going like, it's not me, so I'm not angry at Janice. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's gaslighting. Don't do that. The sixth fetter, you understand that in everything that you have around you, in the form around you, there's a formlessness. And we tend to believe that everything around us that has a form, we see that when I look at the plant, I see the plant 3D. It has a width, it has a height, and it has a depth. But in reality, when I look at it, it only has 2 dimensions. It only has the height and the width. It doesn't have the depth. The depth is something that my brain is adding. That's why Gestalt therapy works, because we're looking at the Gestalt. We're looking at everything we add to something. And the sixth fetter is very much about that. There's some great exercises that I'm going to do with you where you work with only the hearing, only the seeing, only the tasting, only the smelling, not what you assume that you're hearing or assume that you're tasting or assume that you're smelling, but only work with what actually is. And that's what the sutta that is working the most with the fetters is the Bahia Sutta, where Bahia, he was like super impatient. He wanted to become awake. He wanted to learn it. He wanted to know it. So he was running after the Buddha and asking, oh, please tell me, please tell me, please tell me. Buddha was like, it's not now, not now. I'm collecting alms. It's not now. But he was like, I want to learn it now. I want to learn it now. And after 3 times, the Buddha said, okay, this is what you need to know. In the seen, there's simply the seen. In the heard, there's simply the heard. In the cognized, there's only the cognized. There's simply the cognized. In the perceived, there's only the perceived. Nothing else. That's all you need to know. That's reality. The rest is fantasy. I'm paraphrasing Buddha here. So the rest is fantasy. And then Bahia, he understood it and became enlightened right away. He died on the way home, but that's another part of the story. But that's it. That's the thing, that when you, in the seen, there's only the seen. And this leaf, when I look at it, is flat. There's the width and there's the height. There's not the depth. When we get to the sixth fetter, I'm going to talk a lot about and give you a lot of exercises for you to realize what actually is and what is added by the mind. And the seventh fetter is the same but opposite, which means that it's about creating a form in the formless. So there's nothing there and you create something there. The way that I use it is, and again, I know that other people are not using the fetters, working with the seventh fetter like I'm saying in this video. And when we get to the seventh fetter, how I'm saying it in the videos, it's just how I do it. When I get to the seventh fetter, I look a lot on the past, on the illusion of the past, because that you have the past that you create into a form. It's the formless that you create into the form. If you look at a picture from your childhood, you can take a picture and then you say, oh, I remember this. And then you can say about what happened in the picture, la, 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 la. I would like for you to sit and look at the picture, really look at it. And you will start to notice that you all of a sudden see it. Because the thing is, we don't see things, we recognize things. Just like when we're reading a book, we don't read the words, we recognize the words. And that's why you can speed read, because you just recognize it quicker. And that's the problem with dyslexia. They don't recognize the words, which means that they have to learn every single word every time they read. And that's why it's so tiresome to be dyslexic. So when you look at things, you do the same. You look at it and say, that's a cup. You look at it and say, that's a book. You look at it and say, that's a plant. Because you don't really look at it. You recognize it as a cup. You do the same with the past. So if you look at the picture, really look at the picture. You see that all of a sudden you start to notice a distance between the people that you didn't notice before. You start to really look at the people there. And instead of seeing it as Auntie Bob, you see it as a person where the person has characteristics that you haven't noticed before. Another thing you're also going to notice is that that picture is a snapshot of a now. And you might remember what happened when the picture was taken, but you don't remember what happened 2 days later or half an hour before. You remember just that snapshot of the time that was taken. And the reason why I only remember that is that you actually don't remember that either. Something happened. You have an experience in the now. Then whatever you experience in the now, the mind, the fantasy, the ego is putting a post-it on what is happening. And in that, an opinion is created about what actually happened. What the ego does now is that it starts to react to the post-it. It no longer reacts to what actually happened. And when you create another post-it on the post-it on the post-it on the post-it, that is when you're repeating something that happened. But what you're now sitting and talking about as this is what happened, it didn't. You're talking about the post-it on the post-it on the post-it. It's also why you can have siblings from the same family that have had completely different childhoods, because their post-its are different. So everything you believe about your past, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. It's just post-its about what you think happened. And that is the seventh fetter. So it's the antidote to when you work with that. It's about seeing the illusion, seeing through the illusion and seeing what really is. The last 3 fetters I'm not going to talk about in this video, because if I talk about them, I can say them what they are, but it won't make much sense. And if you haven't seen through the self before you hear this video, you're going to hear something completely different than what I'm actually saying. So I'm going to wait with that until we get to it. So yeah, how do you get support and help? If you want to work with it, then first of all, you can become a member on my channel here. I receive so many questions every single day, and I need to sort in it some way. I'm taking this year off, as I said. So I'm sorting in it in the way that the ones that are members are the one I'm answering questions to. I need to sort it somehow. So if you have something that you would like, to ask me directly about, then become a member and ask me in there. And then I can recommend you that you read everything on the homepage that Kevin Sachidana, that he has written. He's guiding you through all of the fetters with everything that he's writing on his homepage. And it's so clear. It's really, really clear. So yeah, the idea for next year is to take a fetter at a time and then work with it. Yeah, that was it. Thank you.